Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are live once again with another episode of Empire State of Baseball. This is episode 96, and believe it or not, we are in August 5th of the year 2024, airing on Instagram, X, YouTube, and powered by StreamYard. Well, gentlemen, here we are. The trade deadline is in the rear view mirror. We are now in the month of August, officially the second half of the season. The last couple of months here, August and September, this is really where the playoff chase starts to get underway. You know, the last couple of months here, now you start to watch, you start to keep tally of how the games back, games ahead, how all of that's starting to add up. Happy for both of our teams to be in this spot come August, because I know some teams, like a White Sox fan right now, you've been over since before Memorial Day. But Joe, how are you feeling on this fine Monday evening?
Feeling good. Helps the Mets just won and shut out the Cardinals on the one of series that they had today, make up for a prior rain delay. So feeling pretty good. I finally got my air conditioning back hooked up in my house.
That's even more important right now.
That's more important. I got that thing cranked to 62 degrees right now, and it's still 74.
Joe's like flashing money. 62 degrees.
Well, it's still 74 degrees. It takes a few days to get this place cooled down. So, but I'm cranking it up.
Oh, sure. That's what I'm sure you're cranking it somewhere.
Pause.
Joe.
Huge pause. Tom, how's it going? How's your weekend?
Well, it's like probably about 73 degrees in my house, so I'm not living lavishly like Mr. Pugliese here. Things are good. Pretty low key weekend. Lots of Olympics. Watch a lot of the. Olympics are fun. There's a lot of the stuff everyone watches: the swimming, the track, some basketball. But then you get involved and you watch a little handball. You watch a little bit of fencing. You watch a little bit of equestrian. You're like, this is fun. I love the Olympics. 2 weeks, watch all these weird sports, and then I forget about them for the next 4 years. And then I'm sure in 4 years from now, I'll be super pumped to watch some water polo again.
I haven't jumped on the Olympics in Paris train like you have here, Thomas. But, while you mentioned that, and I know it's not a topic of tonight's show, but it begs the question, could we ever see baseball the right way in a Summer Olympics? Meaning we could see an Aaron Judge in there. We could see a Garrett Cole, a Francisco Lindor representing their respective countries. Would you guys ever see a path for that happening between Major League Baseball and the Summer Olympics? Corey, Joe?
It's possible. I think what throws a little bit of a wrench is the WBC, and they're trying to really hype up the WBC, and it's the same thing. You're playing for your country. So I think that kind of takes a little bit of steam out of it, especially being every 4 years with the Olympics. So Summer Olympics every 4 years. Same thing WBC. It's every 4 years. So I almost wonder if you go to the Olympics, I think it almost makes the WBC useless. Why bother having the WBC if all the countries are going to compete in the Olympics? So I think it's an interesting debate.
Baseball would just say that's what the World Cup is in the Olympics. I know the Olympics, at least the men don't treat the Olympic soccer the same as the women do. Women kind of they take it serious. They don't have all the restrictions. The only way I could see something like that happen, and granted, we've had a Southern Hemisphere Summer Olympics, but if you did a Southern Hemisphere Summer Olympics, meaning the seasons are changed, so the Summer Olympics was in our winter, and then it took place in Australia, like that. But granted, when they did it in Sydney, I mean, they just had it in Rio 8 years ago, and that was the same time. But if you said, hey, we're going to do Summer Olympics, but we're doing it in the opposite season, and that lines up, so it kind of takes the place of the WBC, that's the only way I could see baseball doing it. But outside of that, it would, you'd have to take a big break. I mean, hell, the best chance they're going to have is in 4 years. It's going to be in LA. So it's not even like you would have to fly people across the country or across the world. I mean, this would be your best chance. And I don't think I know they're bringing baseball back, but I think it's still going to be amateurs.
Yeah. So baseball wasn't in the Paris Olympics this year simply because France deemed that they did not have the infrastructure and the population interested in baseball to keep it. Now, granted, they put breakdancing in the Olympics and a couple of
easier infrastructure there.
A medley
cardboard
of other
box.
of other
baseball
useless, I won't even call some of these sports, but contests. Yet one of the top 3 sports or 4 sports in the world is not in there.
It's definitely not one of the top or 3 or 4 sports in the world.
Well, I mean, soccer and basketball and rugby are probably the top 3. I mean, baseball's probably
basketball is bigger.
Basketball, like I said, basketball, soccer, rugby are probably the biggest 3 worldwide. Maybe cricket. But after that, I mean, baseball definitely in Japan and Korea is a massive sport. In Latin America and the islands is a big sport. I know it's gaining traction in UK, but you're right. If they were ever going to do it, 2028 ping pong, 2028
ping pong's sweet. You see that like Swedish guy? He did like the backspin thing in the gold medal game. He was getting waxed. It's fun.
Who doesn't love ping pong?
That's why Olympics are fun. It's all these fun, like you said, contact weird sports. But I don't know.
2028 would be the one to do. Yeah, it's in your hometown. You have the infrastructure, all that stuff. If you were gonna do it, and baseball should get on board and say, we're going to take a 1.5-week break or a 2-week break to get this into the Olympics because we want to showcase it here in America to the world. This is our national pastime, and we're going to do it right. That's the one time baseball should play a game and say, this is going to be a one and done. We are doing it here in the U.S. to showcase to the world what our great sport is about, and that's it.
You got to drop the All-Star game too, probably. You have to do some things.
Yeah.
I'd
be down for that.
It'd be awesome. It would be awesome if you got the buy-in. And it seems like a lot of the guys do. There's always the talk before the Olympics for even like things like basketball where the athletes like, I don't want to do it. I don't really care about it. And then they get there and they seem like, no, I actually do care. And I do want to compete for a gold medal.
Have a final in Chavez Ravine in July against the U.S. and Japan for the Olympic gold. Like that's the kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff you should want to showcase. That's going to grow your sport more than anything.
It's going to further grow the game exponentially, and that's where I see it
there.
Really
you get something like
most.
That.
100%.
Otani and Dodger Stadium playing for Japan. That's that kind of stuff that you want.
That would be fun. That would be fun.
But again. It needed to sidebar that conversation since Tom brought up the Olympics. It's always a prevalent topic. It seems every 4 years when it comes around, and then I see Sierra mention well, isn't that what the World Baseball Classic for? And I think playing for representing your country in the Summer Olympics, and I could be wrong here or out of line, but I think there's a little more prestige in playing in the Olympics over the created World Baseball Classic representing.
Winning an Olympic gold medal is better than winning a whatever the hell they call the WBC.
Yeah. Finishing as a bronze in the Olympics might be better than winning the
correct.
The top
I agree with that.
The only place where the world tournament is more important to the sport is the World Cup in soccer. I mean, they're going to choose winning a World Cup in soccer over winning a gold medal in soccer. But if you ask basketball, which has the same thing as baseball, the Olympic gold medal is worth more than a WBC championship or whatever they call it.
Well, let's get into the show. And before we get to our rowback rundown, let's shout out the chat. We got a ton of people here in the building. We got 46 to be exact, actually. Not really a ton, but it's 46. I'll take 46, and I appreciate all 46 of you showing up. Jacob Petruzzi, of course, our first in the house. Shout out to Jacob. Yeah, I'm keeping the numbers up, folks. Happy Effing Monday. Shout out to Kristen, of course. We got Corey again, keeping the numbers. All right, so 2 of our folks are represented of the ESB side. Shout out to you guys. SJ83, that's my guy, Joe. Shout out to Joe. Pars, what's going on? Pars, Alana's in the building. Shout out to Alana. We also have NFE. Shout out to the panel. Shout out to NFE. It goes live Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. That is the Strike Zone on YouTube. Make sure to give him a follow and a subscribe. Mark mentioned we would lose to the Dominican Republic in a heartbeat. Let's be real. Shout out to Mark. Sierra from ESB NYY's handle, and of course the host of Extra Innings. Shout out to Sierra. We have Chris over from Yankees Pod. What's going on, Chris? We got 8 show in the building. Boogie over at Boogie Nights Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern Seaboard time. And then Nathan Rama, Tandra, Yankee Summer Bash going on right now at the Woodbridge Brewing Company. They have a big event tonight. They had Clark Schmidt, Jose Trevino, Luke Weaver, Oswaldo Cabrera, and I'm forgetting the 5th. I forgot the fifth, but Jack Curry is the host of this event right now, going on at Woodbridge.
Nice.
So really cool stuff that the other WBC has going on. But let's get into our show. And before we get, this is why they pay me the big bucks, folks. Before we get to the Rollback Rundown, Tom's got a few words over at our friends at Rollback. Take it away.
I will. Yeah. So we're moving our Rollback Rundown to the top of the show here, and I'm rocking a little USA themed polo as we kind of keep this little Olympic vibe going. You guys have heard me talk about Rollback plenty. Listen, they have the most comfortable polos, Q-zips, t-shirts, shorts, bathing suits, all kinds of different stuff out there. Constantly coming out with new drops. They're running their new Dune collection with some kind of more blues and greens collection. Still the American Summer collection going strong. So if you're looking for some red, white, and blue stuff for this summer, take a look at that. And then I also just want to shout out again their last call section. So stuff that's some of the things that maybe are going out of their season or they're going to be replacing soon. Get some really good deals on that stuff, and you can stack promo code TWASPL15 to get an additional 15% off. So a lot of the last call things are 30% off. Take an additional 15% off, and you can get some steals on some stuff. I'm looking at they got some hats here, some polos, shirts, long sleeve, all kinds of stuff. Head over to rollback.com. Use promo code TWASPL15 to get yourself 15% off your first order.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Well, it's time for our Rollback Rundown. And with that, Corey Favs, take it away.
Yeah, listen, as usual, we're going to start off tonight's show with the Empire Express, giving you the latest and greatest of New York baseball news. We'll then go into the New York Strike Exchange, everyone's favorite Bulls and Bears segment. Let's see who the Bulls and Bears are coming into this down the stretch part of the season now. So we'll see who we have the last few weeks, the Bulls and Bears of New York. Who's on deck? All right, it's a nice, cool game our prospect segment, where each of us are going to highlight a prospect within the organization. It could be a guy who's just got the call up. It could be a lower tier prospect that you may have never heard of. So who's on deck is coming back tonight. And then finally, the lineup card, a new segment that we're going to introduce. It's going to be one of our new games that we add into the rotation, where we'll be providing a lineup with a couple of missing spots in the lineup, a missing position and spot in the batting order, and it's up for the other hosts to try and guess who those missing players are. So that'll be a fun new segment that we're adding in. So looking forward to that later today.
Yes, sir. And a quick little shout out to my guy, Ghost. Shout out to Ghost. Great night for some baseball talk always on a Monday. The Mets won today. The Yankees have the day off. So it's all clear for Empire State of Baseball to do its thing. But we'll kick it off with those New York Metropolitans that are coming off the win. And Joe, we'll start with you. What is your latest thoughts on the Mets and their recent play as of late and their trade deadline that just passed?
Yeah, so we'll get into their play this weekend. I think they left one out there in Los Angeles, potentially two out there in LA against the Angels. You can't lose a series to the Angels no matter what you say or what you think. This is the time of year where you have to be pedal to the metal and you have to be aggressive in saying that we belong with the Braves, the Padres, the Diamondbacks, and even the Phillies, who have faltered to the point where the division is now within reach for not only the Braves, but you can have a pipe dream if you're a Met fan that you can actually catch the Phillies too.
You're welcome.
They took care of business in St. Louis. This was a series they needed to win. The Cardinals are right on their tail as well. So they needed to win this game. And now they're off to Colorado. I don't care what you say. The Mets, you almost must sweep Colorado, right? 2 out of 3 is one thing, but you really it can't leave any games out there against the Rockies. So that's where I am. It's lukewarm. The offense has kind of been up and down lately. The pitching's been good, but we're kind of waiting for that offense to come back and start firing on all cylinders again. And that's a big thing. But listen, the trade deadline, the Mets didn't make any sexy moves, right? They got Jesse Winker, who's a left-handed bat. He replaced DJ Stewart, who was struggling. They rebuilt the bullpen on the fly. They went out and got a Ryan Stanek, who's competed in the postseason, who's played in big moments before. Yes, he had a down year, but the Mets are banking that he can find something. They went and got Phil Maton, again, another veteran reliever. He's been good for them when he's come into games already. They got a couple of guys out there. Brazaban from the Marlins. He's been fun. He's got electric stuff. Makes you a little nervous. Didn't pitch well the other night in one of the games. So, the Mets have improved on the fringes, and I think the goal was to reshape this bullpen. And that's what they did. It was by far the weakest part of their team. And thus far out of the break, it has been one of the stronger parts of this team in the recent weeks. But at the same time, you wish that they made a bigger move. I know Stearns is playing the long game. I know he's improving on the fringes. This team should be good enough to make the playoffs. And Stearns is one of those guys. He is not going to overpay for guys if he does not think they're worth it. And that's what he did. He went after guys that are going to improve them on the margins, not necessarily improve them in that big flashy acquisition.
Yeah, and it was a very interesting trade deadline for the New York Mets because think about it, you go back in time a month and a half ago, and we're not even having this conversation right now. Everyone would have said, "Oh, it's gonna be a sell-off." It's Stearns sell off some pieces. Well, Pete Alonso get traded. I mean, we spoke about that pretty much all of May and the first part of June. Should the Mets trade Pete Alonso or not? But the Mets played themselves into the position where they're clearly right there in it. I mean, briefly, they were the wild card one in the National League just a week ago. Now I know they're a little bit back, but that's going to be how the next 2 months are going to go. You're going to gain a couple of games. You're going to go back a couple of games. There's a lot of teams right there in that mix for the wild card position. And the conversation with the Phillies, it's no longer out of the question. The Philadelphia Phillies right now, they've gone ice cold. And all of a sudden, the Mets find themselves, they were 15, 16 games back in the division at one point. They're now 7.5 back. And if the Phillies lose tonight, that'll make it 7. I know something about the Mets and the Phillies in 7 games back in 2007. It went the other way, unfortunately. But the Phillies are playing cold right now. I think clearly all of these wild card teams, I think the Mets have showed, they could compete with any one of these wild card teams, including the Braves. They won, they split the series with them, the 4-game set last week. So the Mets played themselves to be buyers at the deadline. They're also not really in a position where you want to go all in for these big ticket rentals. So you look at the prices of some of these trades were absolutely absurd with the prospects that were going out. So I thought Stearns got guys who not only helped the team, but he got guys at a good value, I thought, too. I mean, look at Paul Blackburn, for example, did not break the bank to get Paul Blackburn, and he came in and pitched a great game for us the other day. Like Joe, you said, they didn't bring in any big ticket bullpen guys, but they rebuilt a bullpen with major league pitchers. Instead of getting these guys who had no business being in the majors anymore, you have some major league pitchers in the bullpen.
Without it killing your farm, too. I mean, you look at what San Diego did in 2 moves, Jason Adam and Tanner Scott, and I think they lost a grand total of 7 prospects to 2 relief pitchers. Which
7 prospects in their top 15.
Yeah, and one of them is going to be a free agent in 2 months. So it's insanity. Some of the prices that we saw, not only just for starting pitching, but just pitching in general. So I was going to ask, but Corey sort of answered if there was a bit of disappointment. Now that you lose Senga for the season, I think Paul Blackburn fulfills that role well. But even with a healthy Senga, the thought would have been the Mets would have tried to have added another complimentary starting pitcher. Was there any disappointment between the two of you that the Mets did not add anyone beyond Paul Blackburn to the rotation?
Well, I think the Mets were banking on Senga being back, and when Senga went down, that's kind of thrown a monkey wrench into it. But I'm looking at the pitcher who moved where I would have wanted to match the price. Jack Flaherty cost the Dodgers a pretty penny.
Number 2 prospect.
Am I of the belief that Jack Flaherty, despite his good year, is the answer to this team being a World Series contender? I don't think so. I think Flaherty
wasn't the answer for Baltimore last year. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
So I don't see the move that the Mets could have made without giving up. I mean, would you guys have been comfortable, Corey, giving up a Drew Gilbert or a Brandon Stroud or a Blake Tidwell? No. The answer is no. The Mets aren't in that position to be going big game hunting when they are relying on some of these guys to be their reinforcements for the next 5-6 years. The Mets have to get back to a point where they are bringing in the free agent to complement the roster, not the other way around, building the roster through free agency and then complement it with a prospect. I think it needs to start to flip to the other way around, the way the Dodgers have done it, which is we have 5-6 young guys and we're going to complement that with a big piece free agent. And yeah, does that make 3 or 4 big piece free agents in the next few years? Sure. But at the end of the day, they are calling up top tier guys or trade in top tier guys to bring in talent. I think that's how you have to do it.
Correct.
And I think the Mets are 1 year away from really starting to see the fruits of a farm system that's increasingly impressive across baseball.
Yeah. And I think the big difference too between this Mets trade deadline and go back a few years ago, 2022, and a lot of us killed Billy Epler, and hindsight's 2020. The ones who killed him were right. I mean, everything he didn't do ended up hurting the team. Then he got Vogel back, and that turned into a disaster last season. The difference was between two teams. You had one team, the 2022 Mets, who were basically on the top of baseball at the time. They went out and failed at the deadline. They didn't do enough. That was a team that was in a different position where you had an older veteran team. You should have been going absolutely all in. This Mets team is not in that same boat. Epler had a much better deadline this time around. Stearns over Epler, much better time this time around. I thought he handled it very well. Set your team up in a position where you're better than you were yesterday. Set yourself up in position where you could compete with all of these teams in the wild card. Again, if we get the Phillies, great. I'll absolutely love it. But right now, let's focus about the wild card. So you can compete with all of these teams, and you're not breaking the bank. Your system is not impacted. And you're not getting these rental players, which are costing you a ton just to hit free agency next offseason.
He did. We did caught. We caught it. We caught it on YouTube. Tom did smile because our guy Anthony
screenshot in that.
If we're gonna loop the Mets in, Tom is so handsome. Oh,
on Instagram.
My God.
I appreciate that cookie. You know,
Tom, I think that smile is your new LinkedIn profile picture.
That was wild to see that. All right. Well, before we flip to the Yankee side of the house, remind the Mets do continue their long road trip. They face the Rockies for 3 and the Mariners for 3, and then they have the off day next Monday. A couple of shout outs real quick before we flip to the Yankee side of the house. My guy Hitman over at Boogie Nights. What's going on, Hitman? Joey, big donuts of the morning drive. Hello, all, including Tom. No, listen, we had Tom and Joey bag of donuts discreetly going back and forth here on YouTube. Tom, you have a message for my friend Joey Baga?
No, Joey caught it was a stray that was not meant for him. I had gotten confused with Boogie, who again could take a hike still, and for all I care, Joey and I were good.
To kick a boulder.
No, whatever. Kick a boulder, take a walk, whatever. Play in traffic, we're good. I'm good. Boogie.
More Train Express, my guy Mazza. What's going on, Mazza? Chris here goes. I just want to say I took Bobby Witt Jr. on ESPN's bold prediction to win the AL batting title. I'm looking like a genius. So. Shout out to Chris Nieves who called that in an early preseason episode of Empire State of Baseball.
Don't break your arm patting yourself on the back there, Chris.
I was going to say, you really stepped out on a ledge there, picking Bobby Witt Jr. win a batting title. My God.
Shout out to Chris. All right. Yankees. Let's get into the Yankees here, Thomas. Yankee baseballs look good as of late. 7-1, I believe, in their last 8 games. I'll get that exact number. I believe I'm right, though. They are right there in the mix of the American League East Division race there as going into today. The Orioles and Yankees are deadlocked at a 67-46 record. Leaders of on-base percentage and run score, and that's across baseball. And things have been looking good. This team has played a lot cleaner baseball. You still have a couple of bad pitching performances in between. We'll get into that in a little bit on the New York Strike Exchange. But the offense has come alive. This is more than an Aaron Judge and Juan Soto story. We've seen Anthony Volpe look like a better player since the All-Star break. Austin Wells has been one of the better offensive catchers in the game over the last couple of months with his OPS. And they add a little jazz to this offense. I know we talked about it last week. We were fresh off the Jazz Chisholm trade, but he's definitely changed the perplexion of the Yankees offense. But Thomas, your thoughts on the Bronx Bombers?
Well, speaking of not smiling, just say Jazz Chisholm one more time, and Joe might break out into tears for how much he hates Jazz Chisholm. Yankees have been looking good. Just swept the Phillies. Again, Phillies stink. Who cares? I don't care if you're the best record in the NL. You stink. We swept you in Philly. How embarrassing for you. And then a fun series against Toronto, winning 2 out of 3. Yankees look good. The offense looks good, and I know the big talking point in Yankee Twitter for the past couple weeks has been how the August schedule is very soft for the Yankees. Now they still have to win those games, just like how we were saying earlier. The Mets need to go sweep the Rockies. The Yankees need to win these games against these bad teams. The Angels, you have the Angels coming in. I think we got the White Sox, and obviously they are historically bad.
20 consecutive losses in a row for the White Sox.
Some real bad stuff coming out of the South side. The Yankees are set. I know you were looking for this, Rich. Yankees are 7-3 in their last 10, so they picked up that game back on the Orioles. Orioles have a tougher schedule coming up, so we'll see the Yankees if they want to win the division. I think they need to get themselves a nice padded lead by the end of this month, be up by 3 or 4 games, and it's possible with Baltimore's whole harder schedule and the Yankees' easier schedule, and then I think it kind of evens itself back out in September a bit. So the Yankees need to make ground now, because if not, they're going to have a hard time catching the Orioles, I think, if they're in a dead heat. Pitching's not been as good as it can be. We'll get to that, but Aaron Judge continues to be the most dangerous man in baseball, just playing in a different league. Juan Soto right there with him, and the offense has looked good. It's looked better. So you got to feel good about this team going into this next stretch that they need to really put the hammer down.
Corey and Joe, what are you guys seeing on the other side of town?
Yeah, no, I think really, like you said, it's the bats outside of Judge and Soto. You're never worried about Judge and Soto. They're going to do their job. But the question was, are other guys going to step up? And I just want to give a big shout out to Volpe, because I know Volpe, we talked about him a lot. He made a lot of our Bears lists over the last couple of months. But he's really stepped up, and he had himself a really nice couple of week stretch here. Well, let's see if he ends up making it on our Bulls list. But that's the big thing with the Yankees right now, is you're getting offense outside of Judge and Soto. Because when the Mets played the Yankees, 2 weeks ago now, they just kept working around Judge. It's like, why are you going to go after this guy? Go attack everyone else. Walk him literally every time. Who cares? Don't give up the solo shot, because the next guy's probably going to hit into a double play or pop up or strikeout. So now that you're taking away that element, sure, you want to walk Judge, great. If you have another guy coming on to get a hit, drive him in, you're putting guys on base. So I think right now the biggest thing here is the other bat starting to wake up. It's starting to look like a better lineup. Jazz Chisholm, I think he brought a lot of great energy to this team. I know we spoke about him in detail, on various segments about, he's a little not the smartest player at times, but I'll tell you what, he's come in here to New York and he's done a really nice job. I thought it brings a nice spark and athleticism to this Yankees team. And that Yankees lineup is playing a lot better today than it was just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, you could see the depth a little bit more clearly. Jazz, at the end of the day, regardless of the fact that I think he's a slightly above league average hitter, he is a professional bat. He is a guy that is going to hit and produce offense, and I don't think he's going to be a slump into the point where you're considering not playing him. And I think the Yankees had a lot of problems on the team because they had several bats that were doing that, whether it be Glaber or now it's Ben Rice or Verdugo or whoever. So, the Yankees have gotten stronger at that position. I still think they should have done more. I think they need another bat at the deadline. I think first base is still a problem. I think second base is obviously still a problem with Glaber being benched the other day. So,
Glaber's hitting, though. He's hitting a lot better.
He's hitting a lot better. He's still making.
There's a reason why, spoiler alert, why he hasn't made our bear list as a league. He actually has been hitting.
He's hitting.
So I think the Yankees still have holes. I think they've benefited from the fact they hit the Phillies at the right time. The Phillies are in an absolute tailspin right now. And that obviously worked out great for the Yankees. Toronto's been terrible. There was a lot of shenanigans on in that series. That was a weird series. I watched the whole game yesterday. It was that felt like a game like the Yankees pulled out that Toronto just couldn't figure out how to get a run across at the end.
The Yankees left a million guys on base too. Like that game, it was one of those games. Yes, the Yankees walked them off in the extras, but it felt like the Yankees dominated that game. They just couldn't get the runs in.
It was a very strange game. My biggest concern right now, I'd be a little bit worried about the Yankee pitching. Garrett Cole is to me, he's out of his grace period.
Garrett Cole has had one bad start.
You give recently. Him, he hasn't been great. He hasn't been great.
So he had his start against the Jays was what 5 1/3, 2 runs. He had a bad start against the Mets. I will give you that. But the two before that were 6 innings, 1 run.
Against the Mets.
Again, he hasn't looked like Cole, and I think that's the big problem right now. I think
people are splitting hairs there. I mean, he's been
like
a lot better. He's been a lot better as of late.
We'll see, but they obviously the pitchings is still a concern. Stanton, of course, has come back and he's been slumping. So right now, Judge is tearing the cover off the ball. Soto's been hot. Volpe's been hot. And when you get a couple guys hot like that, it makes everything, it hides a lot more issues. But I still think the Yankees have issues that they need to be concerned with.
Yeah, and as we mentioned before on the show several times, there's not one team in baseball that's breaking. What the hell is that? Is that a freaking centipede? Is that one of those house? That's like a baby house centipede just right now on my studio wall right now. They just showed up.
There you go.
Yeah, throwing your pen at it's gonna kill the damn.
Rich, did you just refer to your bedroom as your studio?
Yeah.
Okay.
Studio ESP.
Oh my god.
Sure, man.
What's in your
Whatever
studio?
makes you happy.
Studio empty shelf. All right. Anyway, we're gonna move on from there. But yes, you got to see a little bit of better pitching, but we'll get more into the pitching as I have my eye on this thing the whole time now. All right. Let's talk about Instagram, and with our Instagram spot, we send it over to our guy Joe.
Okay. Go in Rich's ear as he sleeps, or like gonna go up his butt? It can go anywhere. Better get that.
You're gonna freak the kid out. He's not gonna be able to concentrate the rest of the show. You can join.
Oh God!
You can join us on Instagram and our 4,800 followers, and follow at Empire State of Baseball. We post all of our reels, memes, segments, games on there, so you can see them and view them after the show during the course of the week. You can follow Corey at Corey Favs, myself at JR Pugs, Rich at Rich J Rivera, and Tom on T Wospil, all on Instagram. And don't forget, we are live on Instagram, so you can enjoy the show on Instagram live if you feel like scrolling through pictures and ads and all the other stuff that Instagram tries to get you to buy. You can view us while you do that now. So
and you can follow the centipede right into the air vent because that's where he headed. So,
he's just biding his time until you go to sleep.
He just dipped
right up your nose.
The dreaded fourth wall, ladies and gentlemen.
Wait,
okay, let's get into our New York Strike Exchange. It is one of our favorite, if not our favorite, recurring bit here on Empire State of Baseball. We'll rank the New York Mets and New York Yankees, the best and the worst of the players over the last 2 weeks. So Corey Favs, I'm going to toss it to you. Would you like to run down the Bulls or the Bears?
Yeah, let's start with the good. Let's do some Bulls today.
All right, let's go ahead. Let's take a look at the Bulls for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and listen, you see a lot of Yankees on this list because the Yankees have really been red hot over the last week or two, ever since that week where they played the Mets. They really woke up. Got to give you guys credit, too. Sweeping the Phillies for us. That really helped to kickstart this nice Phillies cold stretch here. So thank you again. Much appreciated. But Mr. Jazz makes his first Bulls appearance as a New York Yankee. So welcome to New York, Jazz, making it on the 5 spot. The one solo Met to call out, and I got to give Jeff a ton of credit. When we did our Bulls and Bears of the first half, Jeff McNeil was the highest Bear. So the fact that he was able to go from Bear of the first half of the season into a top 5 Bull immediately thereafter, give you credit, Jeff. He's looked a lot better. He hit another home run tonight as well. So Jeff
shouldn't be on the list, but good for you making it, Jeff.
Oh, 357. Of course, he should be on that list.
Shouldn't be on the list.
Definitely should be on that list.
There's someone that is missing.
You made the argument for him to be second on the list.
There definitely is. Anyway, the top 3 though.
No, there's not. For him to be second?
I feel like he had 4 home runs in the last 2 weeks. Am I wrong about that?
Probably thinking about all those Yankees who hit a lot of home runs. That's what you're thinking of.
He's been a lot better regardless, McNeil. But also, I mean, Soto, Volpe, Judge. I mean, this is your 1, 2, and 3 right now. Judge right now, I mean, he's the bull across all of baseball. Forget about New York Strike Exchange. He's the MLB Strike Exchange right there at the top. I mean, I tell you what, when we look at the Bulls and Bears records at the end of the year, Judge he's going to be probably first on about 75% of our Bulls list this season. So kudos to Judge. And like I mentioned before, Volpe really stepped up, and he was a Bear last week, and all of a sudden now here he is a Bull. So offense on the Yankee side really waking up.
Yeah, the rankings. So we actually took, because remember last time we did the first half. So the ranking movement's based on the previous Bulls and Bears when we were doing the 2-week format. But yeah, I mean, I'll talk again. I know we just touched on Jazz Chisholm, but I got to shout out Jazz, because despite the criticism that Joe and I aired towards Jazz's way, despite the scenery change, despite the position change, this guy Jazz Chisholm just came in out of nowhere and was like, woo, I'm about to make a name for myself. Like, this guy Jazz Chisholm, shout out to him, and hopefully he continues to prove me wrong. Thomas, your thoughts on the list?
Carlos Rodon should be on the Bulls list. 3-0 in this week, in this span, a sub-3 ERA. He's striking out well over
with the centipede.
Striking out well over a batter an inning. Guys walks down. Listen, Carlos Rodon should be there instead of Jeff McNeil. I mean, that's a nice stretch there, but I think especially with how much we've talked about Rodon, that's a more impressive stretch than what McNeil's putting together there. But
no, I disagree. I mean, to go from Bear of the first half to a 357 average. I mean, McNeil has been such a big part of the Mets' wins in the last 2 weeks too. I'm not saying Rodon hasn't been.
And not for nothing, Rodon hasn't even been the best pitcher in New York the last few weeks. Sean Manaea has a 1.2 ERA, and he didn't make the list, so he deserves to make the list over Rodon.
I would disagree. I would disagree with that. Rodon should be on the list. Cool for Sean Manaea, but yeah, I will definitely take Rodon. I think Rodon should be on the list. I'm actually surprised again. Jazz made the list. I'm sure he was on Joe's Bears list somehow. I'm sure he just, because he hates him so much.
He wasn't on the Bears list. I had him 6th. I had Lindor above him and Manaea. Lindor is very high.
Personally didn't have Jazz on my 5 as well. So I guess Jazz was high on someone's list over there.
You guys are haters on Jazz Chisholm. Wild.
But
he comes in and just absolutely takes the team by storm. Like he deserved.
Anthony Volpe did something that I think has only been done a couple of times, where he's gone from the number 1 Bear spot to the Bulls list in the next list. So shout out to Anthony Volpe for having a great second half. All right, we're gonna kick it over to the Bears. Thomas, why don't you take this one? Let's take a look at the bottom 5 Bears.
Let's talk about the stink here. We'll start with Ben Rice. I forget who it was in the chat about a month ago saying that he had just purchased a Ben Rice jersey. I said it was a bad investment.
Okay.
And I feel like the Bears list has proven that out. I hope you
got it signed though by Ben Rice.
Oh, well, that makes it worth a ton. Yeah, Ben Rice. It was cute. The minute Rice was hot and it's now cold. There's a reason why he was he's down on those prospect lists. 4, we have Garrett Cole. Very bad start against the Mets, which was really hurting his numbers here. I actually had a pretty decent start against the Blue Jays, but yeah, he's still on our list. The second straight week that Cole has been on the Bears list. I agree that he does need to step it up, although I don't think it's as bad. Again, 1 start is really weighing that down. Number 3, we have Luis Severino. He has, at times in the first half, looked as good as we've really ever seen him in New York for stretches. Going through a bit of a tough one right now. Only 8 innings, 9 ERA. Not good for Severino. The one I think would probably surprise most Yankee fans who maybe don't check up on the Mets is Francisco Alvarez at 2. Really been struggling as of late, a 121 average in the last 2 weeks. Not walking either, striking out. OPS is down, slugging's down. He's someone who's so incredibly talented. He'll get himself corrected. But a very tough 2 weeks for Mr. Alvarez. And then number 1, we have Marcus Stroman, who has, again, first half of the year was pretty good. It was putting together a good strings of starts, but has been very bad as of late. And he's someone who he definitely is a tinkerer. He is very much a pitcher. He's not really a thrower out there. So you got to hope that he can do some tinkering in between starts. Maybe Matt Blake can sprinkle some of the love on him and get him right, because he seems like he's someone that if you make the right adjustments could be very effective again. But you can't argue that he has been bad for a little while now. So he is number 1 on our Bears list.
But this seems to be, and Joe and Corey have seen this on the other side, having Marcus Stroman as a New York Met. This seems to be Stroh's MO a bit. Like, he gets off these hot starts, and it seems like if it's not for injury, he fizzles out middle of the season. And it's like, how mad can I get at a pitcher that's pitching to his career ERA? But the hope is you just hope the wheels completely fall off, because Mark Stroman's getting paid to be in a position where he might have to pitch a postseason game. And right now, I don't know if he's earned that spot when this rotation is full and healthy and everybody's at the top of their game right now. So I'm a little bit worried with Marcus Stroman going every 5th day.
The lack of innings is really not mind-boggling too. He's has like 1 quality start since the start of June. He's not even getting into the 6th inning. I mean, every start now is like into the 3rd, 4th, 5th tops. You know, if he gets into the 5th, it's a win. It's been a very rough stretch for Mr. Marcus at the top there.
Yeah, hasn't had a quality start since June 22nd.
Wow.
Hasn't even gone 6. I mean, that's the only time he's gone 6 innings for a long time. It's not even like he's had some 6-figure.
It's unfortunately
giving you length and not giving you results where at least you're saying he's eating innings. He's not doing that as of late either.
Sierra poses the questions. Are we sure
it's the frustrating part about Stroman, because he might very well might be. He's broken down a couple times in the second half of the season. He did so as a Met. He did so last year as a Cub. So, you know, it's the frustrating part about Stroman. We see what Stroman is able to produce, and it's why, you know, I think several Met fans, myself included, are find Stroman to be a frustrating player, because we've seen Stroman at his best and what he can do at his best. It's just the fact that there's so often times where he either seems to lose focus on the season, come down with an injury, just start to be inconsistent, and it just frustrates you, because you know the type of pitcher that Stroman can be, and you know the gamer that he can be. And then when he starts pitching like this, if other issues start to pop up, as they did when he was Met, that just makes it so much harder to believe in him. That hasn't happened on that side with the Yankees, aside from the one thing with Judge. That's not a big deal. It's just right now it seems that Stroman is not in. He's gotten out of the flow of the season, and it's not. It's something he needs to correct quick. Otherwise, the Yankees are going to have to find somebody else, maybe when Clark Schmidt comes back to take a rotation spot. And the last thing you want is something like that to happen.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like right now. And on the Mets side of the house, I know we talked about Stroman, but you know, we touched on pitching, and we can get into Cole and what's been going on with him and Sevy. But I'm more curious on what's happened to your catcher and Francisco Alvarez here. And Alvarez, who is seemingly unstoppable, especially after coming off the IL, but he's got into an offensive rut, to say the least here. But what's going on with Alvy?
Yeah, I think Alvarez is kind of a victim of a lot of what a lot of young players go through. And if you can't hit the breaking ball consistently, pitchers are going to pound you. I mean, I watched Alvarez get a 3-0 breaking ball the other day. I mean, that's not though. You don't get those as first or second year players. They know right now that he is all out for the fastball. He's whiffing on the breaking balls and not laying off of them, and pitchers are attacking that at the moment. Listen, Alvarez, he's got a world of talent. He's going to be a great player. He catches a great game. You know, it seems this year, especially despite the injuries, he goes through these ebbs and flows. He goes through a slump, and then he goes through a hot streak. He's got to start to balance these streaks out a little bit, where there's a happy medium between scorching red hot and ice cold. And it just seems that Alvarez goes through these phases right now where he's either ice cold or he's tearing the cover off the ball. And the Mets need a little bit more consistency and for that to kind of even itself out.
Can you guys make sense of something for me here? So I was trying to compare Francisco Alvarez to Austin Wells, who, Austin Wells has been doing, a lot better this year. He's really, taken to the cleanup spot. Francisco Alvarez has a 741 OPS this year, which is equating to a 112 OPS plus. 741. Austin Wells has a 753 OPS, a higher OPS, but a lower OPS plus. How does that make sense?
I wouldn't be surprised if it's something in the calculation based on the games played. I mean,
they're not that different. Wells has 212 at bats, and Alvarez has 182. So it's 30 at bats. Just a weird thing. I was trying to look at how different are their numbers of the season. That it makes no sense to me, and now I'm even more confused.
Boogie calling out Stroman hasn't been right since the Yankees start versus the Twins at Yankee Stadium when he was flexing his forearm. And Raikou, shout out to Raikou78, brand new commentator, at least I've seen. I feel Stroman has been right since Judge yelled at him in the dugout from an outsider's POV. We appreciate your outsider's POV. And shout out to Keith Diaz, also another new commenter we see here. 93 people in the building. Shout out to you all. Thank you all for joining Empire State of Baseball. It is 8:46 p.m. here on the East Coast. And I'm going to toss it over to Tom to talk about YouTube. Go ahead.
Yeah, so if you're watching us, hopefully it's on YouTube. That's probably the best way to watch us, although you can watch us live on both Instagram and Twitter. But if you want to watch replays, or if you really want to get involved in our live chat, YouTube is the place to be. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe the channel, the videos, all that kind of stuff. It does really help us out a ton. We currently are just shy of 400 subscribers on YouTube. We would love to get ourselves to 500 by the end of the season. We did a giveaway for 200, 250, something. 250. We do plan on doing something similar for 500. So get us there and let's get involved and do another kind of fun giveaway to show love back to the audience out there. So again, find us on YouTube. The clips, all that kind of stuff that we work on and getting up added there. Take a look at us there and like, share, and subscribe. I am struggling with words right now.
That's all good. I appreciate you, Thomas. Thank you very much. Let's get into some prospects. It's been a while since we did this segment. It's called Who's on Deck. And as Corey mentioned before in the intro, we're just going to highlight prospects that have caught our attention on both the Mets and Yankees side of the house. One of which who I covered back in, I believe when we did this that segment, it was early June or late May. Augustine Ramirez was traded in the Jazz Chisholm deal. So he wasn't next for the Yankees, but hopefully he'll be next for the Marlins. Corey Favs, who would you like to talk about tonight on the Mets side of the house?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about a young infielder right now ranked 20th, MLB.com. And again, depending on your site of choice, I've seen him as high as 17. I've seen him as low as 23. But for the purpose of this conversation, MLB.com has him as number 20. And that's Jesus Baez. Very interesting prospect. The one caveat I want to call out right away is he is hurt. He had knee surgery in July. It's been very mum in terms of how severe it is. Was it just a cleanup or was it an ACL tear? No, I don't really see any information on that. But he was moved to the 60-day IL. I think it's probably the team just using a lot of extra caution with him. We'll see what happens. But the big thing with him is he's got some pop. He's got some pop. He's played all of the infield positions, primarily plays shortstop, but he's got some third. He's got some second. The interesting thing with him, though, is if you're looking at the Mets, obviously shortstop is blocked for a very long time with Lindor. Third base is interesting between Vientos. You still have Beatty. We'll see what they end up doing there. And you figure Acuna is going to be the second baseman of the future. But supposedly a lot of other teams have some interest in Jesus Baez because of the pop. He also has a low K rate. Like I was looking at his numbers from A-ball, and he had like an 11% K rate. Not too bad. His whiff percentage was like 20%. So again, pretty decent numbers there. He's got the pop, like I said. I think this is a candidate who actually will probably be trade bait. So if you want to see the Mets start to build that major league roster. We know this trading deadline was not the season to give up too many high pieces. I could see Jesus Baez continuing to climb up the prospect list. And because of being blocked at those key positions, I think this is a piece that you could see as a big part of a potential blockbuster, let's say a year or so from now in another Mets deal.
Yeah, I mean, I know the Mets are high on him. They think he's got all the talent in the world. I think the question is whether or not he is going to hit enough. I know he's got one of those guys who's very toolsy. He's got a great arm, and I think they like his power. They're just waiting to see how he's going to grow into his body. And what that's going to mean for him in the long run. But you're right, with the amount of infielders ahead of him in the prospect rankings, he's going to have to find a spot. The Mets are going to have to find a spot for him. Otherwise, he's going to be one of those guys that could be, traded and used to bring in a significant asset in the future.
I like it. Jesus Baez, very good stuff there. Corey Favs. Joe, let's flip to your side. Who are you covering tonight?
Yeah, so we're going to go with Jonah Tong here. Tong is the Mets' number 17 ranked prospect according to Baseball America. I believe he's number 18 on MLB.com for the New York Mets. And the big thing that you're going to see right there, the number that stands out is that fastball grade. MLB has him at a 65. Baseball America has him as a 70 grade fastball. Not an overpowering fastball. He doesn't throw 100. He usually sits at 92, 94. He'll top out near 97, but his vertical break is apparently elite. And he has a fastball that moves more than almost anybody else in Double-A. They think it's a major league ready fastball now. He has two other pitches: curve, slider, changeup. So it's really which one of those pitches is going to stand out and complement the fastball, and where is he going to be able to produce. But his stats in the minor leagues this year have been phenomenal. 17 games started, 2.60 ERA. The Mets, at one point, Baseball America had him as the top stuff, I think was for the month of June, in all of Double-A. He was either one or two in Double-A with his stuff rated out. So, this is a guy I think the Mets have an eye on. I think is going to be a quick riser in the system. I would be shocked if he's not a top 10 prospect next year for them. He's got that kind of stuff, and the Mets are looking for that next wave of pitching. Christian Scott, Brandon Sprout. This is the next guy behind those two guys that's going to make a big impact, along with the likes of Blake Tidwell. So definitely a guy to watch. Definitely a guy that we hope we see in the major leagues in the next few years.
Yeah. No, that live arm really is the most intriguing part here. And one of his most recent starts that he had in Brooklyn didn't even pitch 6 innings, and he still got 10 strikeouts. So definitely has that electric stuff. I almost wonder, too, just because of how great that fastball is, it almost makes me wonder, could this be a guy who ends up making that shift from a starter to a reliever when it's going to the major league level? Because having that type of arm, it's so electric in the back end of a bullpen. I hope obviously I want him to be a starting pitcher. I hope they continue to stretch him out, and he comes up as a starter. But we'll see what ends up happening.
124 strikeouts in 83 innings is
it is insane. Like, this guy clearly has a live arm. But we'll see what happens. It's definitely a fun prospect, just 21 years old. So we'll see how it progresses.
100 people in the building. Shout out to you all for joining us here on a Monday evening. We're going to flip over to the Yankees side of the house, but good stuff on covering Jesus Baez and Jonah Tong there to Corey and Joe. Thomas, you're going to stick with a pitcher here for the Yankees, a pitcher who's currently in Single-A. So who are we covering tonight?
We are covering Mr. Cade Smith, who is in Low A down in Tampa. 22 years old, so he kind of follows in the footsteps of what the Yankees seem to like out of pitchers in the draft, of drafting college guys. They don't go a lot of times for the young kind of live arms. They do tend to like guys who are a little bit more polished, a little bit more experience, and a little bit more age. And they kind of actually do that with their position players as well. If you kind of look at the guys who have made it up generally. So he went to Mississippi State, won a College World Series there as a freshman, and then kind of moved on after a couple years more there. So again, he's in single A right now. He's having a good year. His ERA is under 3.5, which isn't not the best in the world, but it's solid. Again, good strikeout numbers. 111 strikeouts and 85 innings is something you like to see at that level. And from everything like I've read about him, he's someone who is kind of trying to figure out his stuff still. It's kind of like he's throwing a lot. Between the fastball, curveball, slider, changeup, and it's he needs to really hone in, and he'll probably end up having to drop one of those pitches and really kind of focus on one of those breaking balls, and then maybe improving the changeup if he wants to move his way up. But the Yankees have MLB.com has him at 20th on the Yankees list. I would say with this solid season, you would see him probably rise up the rankings, and as someone who you're not going to see impact the team in the near future, but again, could be someone can be part of a trade coming up. You want to see these guys progress. So next year, you want to see him either in high A at Hudson Valley, or possibly even jumping up to double A. Again, he's 22. He's not a kid. So you do want to see him move his way up the system, and hopefully we see him making that next step next year, and then really getting on some the scouts' minds of where he could end up being.
Yeah, I think if everything flies right, I think you could probably see Cade Smith up to Double A Somerset at the beginning of 2025. Much like Jonah Tong, like the K rate there, 111 Ks to 85 and 2/3 innings pitch, and it seems to be amazing too with the Yankees and the pitching that they've dealt, the pitching they've lost in Rule 5 drafts. And you still can come up with some names here like Cade Smith, and there are other names out there, Tristan Breeling, Brock Selvage, pitchers that don't really get the name-worthy recognition, but are all solid pitchers in the minors here, as is Cade Smith at 22 years old, which is, it's shocking to see somebody at that age still in low A ball right there.
Well, this is his first, I think this is his first, kind of full year doing it, so that's why he's still in single A. And the Yankees haven't produced any super top end pitchers in a long time, but they do continually put out these just solid guys, even though a lot of them get traded away. But they're solid MLB arms, which teams need these solid 3, 4, 5 starters, and if some of them break out and work their way up is what you hope for with them.
All right, so my player that I'm covering, it would potentially be a Cade Smith potential battery mate. I'm going to cover another catcher because I love catchers, apparently. Engel Urena, who is currently ranked by MLB.com as the number 24 prospect in the Yankees system. Catcher who's 19 years old. 301 batting average for him across the minors in 2024, a 984 OPS. I love this July stat that I pulled up, which is not currently on the screen, but in July, hit 419, an OPS of 1.405 for a catcher. I mean, these are some solid numbers, and it kind of gives stake to, hey, the Yankees were willing to move on from a player like Augustine Ramirez, who absolutely crushed it in the minors across the last year, because you have catchers like this, and Urena is not just the only one. There's several other catchers down the minors that we can cover. Urena was one that was intriguing. And with the help of my good buddy over at NYY Underground, that is Mr. Dane Huber, who we've had on the Creator Spotlight, he did have a couple of notes he wanted me to share on Engel Urena, an arm strength of 95 miles an hour. I know here on the grade for MLB.com, they have his arm grade at 55. However, he is a 70 grade on his arm, and I believe that is according to Baseball America, which has had him covered for the last 2 years. So they really like the defensive metrics a lot better than what we saw out of Augustine Ramirez. He also even has the twirly bat motion when he swings, much like Augustine, much like a Miguel Andujar. 6% K rate last month for the young Urena, a 20% walk rate last month. July was an insane month for Engel Urena, so definitely want to see his progression as he moves along. Obviously, a very young player at 19 years old, so he has a lot of steps to go before we ever see him up to the show. So really, who's on deck? I mean, he is not even just on deck. I don't even think he's in the hole yet. with Angel Urania. So looking forward to seeing what we're seeing out of another young catcher here in the system, Thomas.
Yeah. Yankees seem to keep producing catchers and trading them away, and then they end up not always working out. So hopefully if he works his way up through the system, the Yankees can trade him before people realize that.
And also currently, I'll add one more note, highest bat speed in the Yankees organization, and that is Angel Urania.
He's ranked 18 on Baseball America, and his arm is ranked at 55, graded at 55 on Baseball America as well.
On BA? Okay. All right. So that is Angel Urania and Cade Smith. So thank you, Tom, and great job, guys. So we'll keep this thing going next month. At some point, we'll cover the minors one last time before we end the regular season, and by that point, we'll probably be ending the minor league baseball season as well, getting into the playoffs by the time we talk about our next quad of prospects, to say the least. All righty, let's we're gonna move on to our final bit. That is our brand new game here as part of the ESP game segment on Empire State of Baseball. That's gonna be lineup card before we get the lineup card. Let's touch on, and I forgot my notes. Let's touch on X. Oh, wait, this is all me. All right, so X here, you give us a follow at ESB Podcast. Make sure to give our team coverage, separate team coverage. That's at ESB NYM, where Corey Favs and Joe Pugliese are holding it down, and at ESB NYY, where it's Tom, myself, and Sierra, the host of Extra Innings, who is holding it down over at the ESB NYY account. Sierra does a great job over there. And make sure to give us all a follow individually at G Gory for Corey, at JR Pugs for Joe, at Rich J Rivera for myself, at T Wospil for Tom, and hell, even for Sierra too, at Sierra Not Missed on X. Join our 3,100 followers and counting. All righty, it's time for our game. Our brand new game here on Empire State of Baseball. It is called Lineup Card. Now, the rules are simple. We're going to present, Corey and I will be presenting two different lineups from, we'll tell you the date, we'll tell you the opponent, and we're going to show you the lineup card, but we're just going to miss three spots of that lineup card. One in the top third, one in the middle third, and one in the bottom third. So it's up to the rest of the hosts to guess who are the missing components of that lineup card. All right?
How are we doing the point system here, Richard?
1 point each. 1 point each.
1 point per. So there's 6 points up for grabs.
You could be up. Yeah, you could be up to getting 6 points here.
Okay, I'm just checking.
Private chat. Private chat. All righty. Well, let's get
Tell
this
yourself
thing going.
that, Joe, again. Biggest cheater I've ever met.
It'll be fun.
All right, I'll start this thing up with my lineup card. Let's get that ticker up here and get this thing going. All right. So our lineup goes back to July of 2011, specifically July 9th of 2011. The Yankees are playing the Rays, and the significance of this game is this is Derek Jeter's 3,000 hit game. We're missing the 2, 6, and 8 spot.
A-Rod hitting, playing third, and I guess hitting sixth.
Incorrect. A-Rod's not even in the lineup.
Brett Gardner is in left.
Jacoby Ellsbury playing center field, batting second.
Not in the lineup.
Trying to think center field for the Yankees.
Johnny Damon in center field, batting second.
Incorrect. Not in the lineup.
Yeah.
Actually, funny enough, Tom, he was in the opposing dugout.
He was there in 09. I don't remember how long he stayed.
2 Ks for Tom, 1K for Joe.
We're missing center field. We're missing third base, and we're missing DH. Was this?
And by the way, the guesses how you guys are doing it is absolutely correct. It's position, name, and where they are in the line.
Yep. And I forget if this was the year that they got him. I don't think they did, but I haven't done a guess yet. So I'm going to say Ichiro in that second spot in the outfield. I think it's too early on Ichiro, though.
Incorrect. Not Ichiro.
Yeah, too early on Ichiro. I
think Ichiro's 23.
Melky Cabrera in center field?
Ooh, that's a good guess.
Incorrect. All right.
What about Granderson in center field?
Batting where?
I'm gonna. Batting where too is the tough part. I'm gonna say sixth.
It's not 6. He's in the lineup. I feel like I have.
I think you got to give it to him. I think if you get the position and the player, I think that'd be fair.
Yeah.
I think
you got to get 2 out of the 3.
All right. So Curtis Granderson's actually batting second and playing center
Okay.
field. So Corey's got that. So we're missing number 6 and number 8.
Third base.
Third base and
Third base and
DH.
DH. That's correct. Yep.
Because the thing is, and I'm talking through this with my fellow Met fans here. A-Rod's still on the team, so he's not like
Maybe he was hurt.
he could be
I already
hurt.
mentioned he's not in the lineup at all. So
Could be, yeah, I know. I'm just saying, but it's not. This isn't Chase Headley time. Chase Headley would come after this, I assume, unless I'm just wrong on that.
So it's gotta be like a backup infielder that's
You would
taking a
think
day for A-Rod.
Probably hitting 8th, or it could be also be when A-Rod was suspended. I don't remember exactly.
Sierra's
when
got a
that
correct
was.
guess in the chat.
And
Third
now
base
one's-
and DH.
Okay. I'll give you. I'll be nice since it's our first one. The number 6 hitter is a World Series champion. The number 8 hitter was considered typically a backup player on the infield.
So 8 is a World Series champ.
6 is a World Series champion.
6 is a World Series champion.
That leaves a lot of people to.
So we say it's third in DH. Is the DH Raul Ibanez?
That is
Ooh.
incorrect, Thomas. Great guess,
Like the
though.
guess.
You know,
Is the DH Hideki Matsui?
Joe, great guess, but it's not Hideki. He's not on the team anymore. You K'd out.
Ooh.
He might
Corey,
be
you
a
still have
Ray.
2 days to
He also
go.
might be a Ray at this point.
Yeah.
Corey's line rate got his 1 point so far. Has a chance to sweep the board.
Gabby Sanchez. I don't even know if he was a Yankee.
Gabby Sanchez, I don't even think was on the team, so that's okay.
Yeah. All right. I had to get a name out there. I had
All right,
two
we got one more there,
All right.
Corey.
One more. All right. Third base, DH, World Series champion was the 6th spot. Not necessarily a Yankee World Series champion, but won a World Series. Again, because I'm just getting a little pressed for time, I'm going to say
Oh, Hitman with a great guess there.
I'm gonna peek.
Bobby Abreu.
That's
Not Bobby Abreu, long gone from the Yankees. So
Yep.
the answers we're seeking, Corey gets 1 point in that mix with the Curtis Granderson guess, who is hitting second in center field. In the 6th spot and DHing is Jorge Posada.
Really?
Jorge Posada in his final
it
year.
feels like
as a
he was
Yankee.
gone. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Final
Posada
year.
at the 6th spot. And in the 8th spot, the third baseman was Eduardo Nunez.
Oh.
Eduardo Nunez.
Eduardo
okay.
Nunez was the guy, and I saw Joey Bag of Donuts throw out Nunez. Sierra, how are we forgetting Jeter's right-hand man, Posada? So great guesses there in the chat, folks. But all right, so Corey, 1 point to you, and I'm going to take 2 points for me
Oh,
on the
there you
lineup
go.
card.
There you
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Now, Corey Favs, you have the Mets side of the house. So take it away. We'll throw up the time clock.
Feel like there's got to be a lot of huge names.
Yeah. So with this Mets one, reason I picked this day specifically was because, well, thinking of the Phillies Mets situation in 2007, I mentioned it before. Phillies were actually in third place on this day in 2007. Braves were in second, Mets were in first. So hope history repeats itself with the Mets taking the Philly spot. Ironically, it wasn't until after I picked the day I found out it was also Tom Glavine's 300th win. So talk about timing on that. But for this Mets lineup, again, you're missing what are you missing? You're missing a second baseman, you're missing a center fielder, and you're missing a left fielder.
I'm going to go in.
Beltran, center field.
Beltran is not on the list.
Well, you saved me from that one.
Yeah, I'll be honest, Joe. I thought you were going to do it, and I just wanted to snake it from you. But I think it was still a good guess. He's there in 07, isn't he?
He was probably hurt or something that day.
Second base.
Second base.
Jose Valentin in second base.
It is not Jose Valentin.
Oh, no, wait, I don't want to do that one. Let's do. Okay,
I feel like you and I are thinking of the same second baseman, Rich, and I don't feel confident about it either.
let's go batting 8th, left field, Lastings Millage.
I'll give it to you, but the position was wrong. He was center field.
Was he batting 8th?
But you got batting 8th, correct. Yep.
All right, so you got two out.
Yep.
Cliff Floyd playing left field.
It is not Clifford Floyd.
Damn.
I'm gonna take a shot. I thought Luis Castillo at second base.
He is the second baseman.
Oh, there we go. Ready to drop
What do you have
that
batting,
A-Rod
Tom?
pop up. Well, I have him at second base, which I think decided that'd be good enough. I think second, probably.
Yep, it was the second spot. So you're missing the left fielder batting 5.
Fielder at 5.
We got 1K for Tom, 2 for Joe. Rich, I still think is perfect.
Yeah. I had
Corey, are you pacing right?
I can't believe Sean Green was still on this team. I would have thought Sean Green was like.
So it's not Floyd. It's not Beltran.
Hey,
Millage is playing center field. He wasn't there yet. It's got to be it's got to be a backup left fielder. I feel it's somebody.
Is it
Angel
Kaz
Pagan?
Matsui?
It is Kaz Matsui. It is not Kaz Matsui.
I said Angel Pagan.
Angel Pagan is not Angel Pagan. So I think that's 2 for Tom, 1 for Rich, 2 for Joe.
Angel Pagan felt so good.
Not a bad guess. I think Pagan, was 09.
Andy Chavez.
Not Andy Chavez.
I was thinking of Andy Chavez when I said Angel Pagan. So
that was a really good guess.
I was thinking of the catch. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I'm going to kick myself when I hear
2 Ks for everyone.
I'm going to kick myself when I hear the name. I know that.
We're going to God, who's kicking around those teams?
No, because they traded that guy in 06.
Ricky Leday.
Not Ricky Leday. I think he was a year or 2 after.
I remember before. He was the answer.
Yeah, he was around that time.
He was the Yankee that named that Yankee in the Yankee Met game.
Yeah.
Ty Wigginton.
Was a Met.
Not Wigginton. Joe is the last one left with 1 guess.
Let me check the chat now that I'm out. Ooh, okay. Some interesting ones.
Let me look too.
Pretty sure Sierra, yours is incorrect. I think that person is.
Was it Moises Alou in left field?
It was Moises Alou in left field.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Joe checked the chat. I say.
No, I didn't check the chat.
Jacob
because
Jersey had the
Yeah,
right
another
answer, as
tricky-
did, Real D.
Other options is throwing out Moses Alou, and he's coming out.
Xavier Nady was traded in 06. It couldn't be him.
Yeah. Bobby Abreu, I think, was the Yankees still at this point.
Yeah, Jason Bay didn't come on for another 2 years, I think. I think he came on in 09. But yeah, Moises, which is hard to remember because Moises basically never played when he was a Met.
Yeah. And he actually did good that year. Like I said, when he did play, he actually was
350.
Good. Yeah.
But played
Joe, do you sleep well at night knowing you just cheat in these games? I'm just curious.
How am I cheating in games?
You just said, like, how could you remember Moises Alou? And then
I said it's hard to remember Alou because he barely played.
Mm-hmm.
But process of elimination, it's not Beltran who was on the team. It's not Cliff Floyd who was on the team. Pagan is out. Andy Chavez is out because it was said you're running out of Met outfielders.
I'll take 3
sleep
points.
well in your 62-degree
Corey, Joe, and
apartment
Tom each get a point each. So a high point game there, and a lot of fun. I can't wait to do that next time. So Joe and Tom are on
a good game.
For the next one. So there you go. Lineup card, debut episode. There you go. Mark it down. All right, let's wrap this thing up. We have 109 people in the building. Shout out to you all. Thank you all so much. A lot of great guesses here in the chat, especially the Bobby Abreu one multiple times. Love that. Love that for Joe. But hey, make sure to join us on ESB Extra Innings. That is our post-show space over on X, the artist formerly known as Twitter, hosted by Sierra. Joe and I. Hopefully we see Tom. Hopefully we see Corey. Maybe, maybe not. But make sure to join us in about a couple of minutes. We're going to go live on X, keep this conversation going. And also, I want to send my best over to the Shea and Sons podcast, which has been a supporter of us and equally on the other side from the Mets community. And shout out to Keith and Keith, who do a great job with their shows and especially their watch-alongs. They did a watch-along that I tuned into prior to tonight's show. But Keith of Shea and Sons will be joining us next week on the Returning Creator Spotlight. So we're looking forward to talking to Keith here. And hopefully we get to see some damn Met fans in the comments. We need some Mets folks on the east side, on the other side of the east side river. So let's call it, though. I'll start with with obviously our final words here. Thank you all for joining, of course, the 110 plus you. To my co-host, great job as always. Thank you so much. And we'll see you over on X. Tom.
Yeah. See you over there. Yeah.
Looking forward to the end of the Olympics. U.S. is dominating in the medal count. We got to get ahead of China in the gold count. But that's okay. China wins usual sports like ping pong and stuff. We win the real sport.
Diving's done. We got track now. It's time for us to pull ahead.
Corey, take us home.
Well, that's it. Listen, let's go USA. Hopefully we get some more golds here. But until next time, we hope you all had a great evening with us. See you next week. Take care.